The beeps, the boops, the bobs. It's up. That's the theme music. It sounds like the organ going crazy. We don't actually hear the music while we record this. So right now, David Hutchins is looking at me going, what are you talking about? But it's the theme music, and it signifies another episode of InGoal Radio, the podcast. Darren Millard, along with the co-founder of InGoal Magazine, David Hutchison. Kevin Woodley is on assignment this week, and we will have him, though, as part of our feature interview with future Hall of Famer, inductee to the Hockey Hall of Fame, Kim St Pierre. And it is a fascinating conversation. There is so much to take out of this discussion that stretches over 30 minutes. So we're looking forward to that as Woody tracks down the only goaltender inducted into the Hall of Fame this year. But also want to touch on what's happening in real life and in the world of hockey. And Hutch, we're getting closer to the return to play with Phase 3 coming up on July 13th. And that is progress, motion.
It's a lot of progress. And I have to be honest, I think I've said quietly in the back room here with the two of you that I was skeptical this was going to happen. And now I'm getting excited. I think it just might. I'm so happy to see them coming closer. And I'm also happy, just forget about right now, that it looks like we might be in for a period of some labor peace for a while too, and a couple of Olympics. So I'm really excited by the news that's coming around, but you're a lot closer to it than I am, Darren, both with the team and with some people in the league. So what are you hearing, and how are you feeling?
Well, good point about the labor piece and continued stretch of National Hockey League action without a interruption. And the Memorandum of Understanding, which has to be ratified by the Board of Governors and voted on by the National Hockey League Players Association, when it is agreed to, and all my sources indicate that it will be agreed to, will mean we're looking at a guaranteed 13-year stretch without some kind of work stoppage. And that is incredible given what we went through in 92, 94, 2004, 2013. So it's really spectacular. So good on you for that we don't have to talk about CBAs nearly as much, running out the final 2 years of this deal and then a 4-year extension. And then we get into the return to play and the start of training camps in Phase 3 next Monday, July 13th. The teams will report to their hubs on July 26th. And that stretch between the 13th and the 26th, well, we are looking ahead to the start of action in the early August days. That little stretch is going to be such a key, and I'm really impressed and proud of a lot of the comments coming out of the players themselves, because that gathering of full team practices, while you don't have to self-isolate, you're not in a bubble through the start of Phase 3 and training camp, is going to be a pivotal part where you're still allowed the freedom, players, team personnel, coaches, to walk around and do your thing. You're not in that secure zone. So how you handle that, what positions you put yourself in, and your family is going to be really impactful on positive tests. Now, that's not to say, Hutch, that we're not going to have positive tests. We will through training camp. We probably will during the course of play. But how players are reacting right away to say, we have to make sure that we take care of ourselves first and foremost, is a real positive indicator that things are going to be strong out of the gate when training camps start on July 13th. And it'll be interesting to see how, I don't know, how some maybe an older team that's sort of on the veteran side of things handles things, and whether or not you'll see spikes out of younger teams and players who are, hey, going out on one rip in the town or something like that. Whether that happens, we'll be keen to watch what happens and comes out of that.
It's going to be real emphasis on team culture, isn't there?
Yeah, and we've heard Justin Williams is one player that I'll cite that they came out and just talked about how they have to have each other's backs and veteran leadership, and is going to be key to making sure everybody's aware of the impact that one bad decision, and it's not like going out and doing something terrible, illegal or wrong, morally, anything like that. It's just putting yourself in a bad spot where you could contract this virus. You have to be so critical of your exposure that you really have to be mindful of it. So it's a unique situation that nobody's ever been in, but I think I've been impressed and proud of what the veteran voices have said.
Yeah, I think everybody's going to be learning a lot as they go every day about the team, about each other, about the process.
It's about leadership and having that experience. Whether you've been obviously not through this before, but you've got something to fall back on having being wise of the world. Something like what we have up on the website ingoalmag.com, and from the parents' perspective, I think sometimes we forget how much knowledge parents themselves are searching for, along with the goaltenders, from a stylistic and a technical point of view. But that's really been a popular piece on the website.
It is, and I'm glad it has been, Darren, because we hear from so many parents that tell us that they're listening to the podcast as they're driving to the rink. Family in tow and a chance to catch up on the game. And it's something that you share as a family. If you're committed to this game, you're spending a lot of time together on the road, and you're spending a lot of family resources, foregoing vacations to chase the hockey dream, so to speak, whether that's just going out and having fun or wanting to move on to play junior or pro one day. It really is a family thing. And I don't think that we've had a ton of family content over on InGoal. Now, I know a lot of parents really crave, as you say, that technical information. They want to know what they can do to help their kids. And so the opportunity to learn over at InGoal has been something a lot of families have enjoyed. What we wanted to do with a lot of the parent content that we started to develop more lately was, talk about some topics that we all share. It's not in any, with everything we do at InGoal, it's not us standing in the pulpit sort of preaching to people, this is how it should be done. Any more than we do with say the pro read section. We're bringing in experts in pro reads to tell us how they read the game. And in the respect of the parents articles, I'm sharing my personal perspective, but I'm not suggesting that I know how to do it best. I'm just sort of sharing perspective, and I hope it generates a little bit of commentary from the parents. So here I am. I think I'm on my way, Darren, to giving the longest answer ever, and I might beat Woody here. But
no, you don't
think so?
You got some space here. You got some breathing room.
I barely started. It's the one that's up most recently, I think, really reflects the time that we're in right now. And I know there's a lot of people in some tough situations with respect to the COVID pandemic, and they're nowhere near getting on the ice right now. There's some people that are getting back on the ice, and then there's a few people that are sort of waiting. And we were in a really unique situation with this through spring. Everybody had to take the choice to step away from the rink. We had no choice, no matter where you live, except for perhaps a select few over in Europe. But that in many respects gave me personally a bit of a sense of relief. It's always a difficult choice every year. Do you play spring hockey? Do you go to camps? Do you do more training? And if we're all being honest, we look around and we have a little bit of what I call FOMO, fear of missing out. Is my son or is my daughter missing some opportunity because they're not on the ice this spring? Are they missing some opportunity because they're not in a fun tournament? Whether that's because you think it's going to make them a better goaltender, or you just want to go and enjoy that experience as a family. Or on the flip side, if I have them on the ice, if I say yes when they want to go hang out with their friends back at the rink for another season, what are they missing out on something else? Because we talk about the importance of multi-sport athletes. We talk about learning how to catch by playing baseball, about being a diverse person. And am I missing out on that if I let them play? So we had a unique experience here where we were all forced away from the rink. And it was kind of a relief because, yes, I'm not going to the rink, but nobody else is. I have no other choice. It's kind of an easy one to make. But now I know a lot of people are starting to get a little bit worried because they look around and they see some kids getting the opportunity to get out and skate, as our son has had recently, and others, as we said, aren't. And so that's making people feel a little bit uncomfortable. So we address that, and we address some ways that people can look at still improving, even though they're not on the ice now, and trying to say, look, it's all good. There's a lot of different routes to developing as a goaltender and as a youngster, and we're going to be okay. We're going to get there.
How would you feel if you weren't allowed on the ice and watching others get back to the rink?
Well, I said in the piece, quite honestly, I felt nervous. I felt a bit of FOMO. I'd felt really relaxed all spring, and then I saw over in Vancouver some rinks were opening up, and some kids we knew were getting out on the ice, and got a little itchy, and not freaking out. Oh my gosh, this kid's going to be ahead of my son at the next tryout or anything like that. But just it's an honest. One of the other things I said in there is that I believe we all do things with the best interests of our children at heart, and I could see my son kind of going stir crazy. Shut in the house, not able to see friends, not able to get on the ice. It's what he likes best. And so when you see some able to do it, you really feel bad.
Did you jump in with both feet?
In terms of back on the ice?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sort of unintentionally. Soon as I knew there was some ice, I got in touch with the goalie coach that he works with most frequently, and checked on some ice. And then quickly a team that he was going to be part of in the spring had some ice, and no sooner do you know it, but we're back on the ice 5-6 times a week. I have to say, Darren, that, at the time there were 0 cases of COVID on Vancouver Island where we live. And there hadn't been in something like a month, and we were going into some very controlled environments. So although I was still a little bit nervous, felt pretty darn comfortable.
So what was more powerful? The comfort level with COVID, because there was no cases, or the urge to get back on the ice and get back training?
I think they're related. I don't know that one is more powerful than the other. If I hadn't felt comfortable, if we as a family didn't feel comfortable, we wouldn't have done it. So you had to have that comfort level before anything else. And boy, did it speak to the power of a break, because Matty was literally shaking on the way to the rink. He was so excited, and it was an hour-long drive, and he looked like he was 5 years old when he came out of the rink. He was so happy.
I tell this to parents all the time that talk about spring hockey and summer hockey and winter and their winter seasons. I said, you know what? There's one thing that every child should experience once a year. And you can see their mind turning. Is it a championship? Is it talking to a scout? Is it whatever? And I said, it's the first skate of the year.
Mm-hmm.
And they are puzzled. But I said, so many and I speak to them, of you, don't have your child have a first skate of the year, because they go from spring to summer to fall. To winter season, that the maximum break might be 2 weeks. I don't consider that a big break, but there should be that. I wonder what today is going to be like, because I haven't skated in. You should walk into the room and say, I haven't skated for a month. I haven't skated for 6 weeks, and have that mystery and that the excitement of being back on the ice after a legitimate break is something every kid should experience at least once a year, to make sure that enthusiasm is there. There's my pulpit.
Yeah, I'm a bit of a fence sitter, as you know, and I feel I absolutely agree. It was an incredible experience. I also understand those that want to keep going. I don't buy that we have to say no, or you might get burnt out. I mean, I think we can let the individual decide. We don't go out in the backyard when our kids are tossing a ball around and say, stop, you've been throwing a ball in the backyard every day for the last 4 months. You might get bored of baseball. I think.
Well, if you're a professional or like a top baseball player, I don't know.
I think it comes down to structure, doesn't it? And how intense is the experience? How same is the experience? If it's, I don't know. I find the experience of going to a goalie lesson, which is not part of his regular team structure, at a different time of year, is a different experience, and I'm okay with it. But it really does depend on the individual. I had another coach say to me once. He said, these parents, they told me they really wanted their kid to be able to play spring because he wants to, and if he wants to, I'm going to let him. And I looked at him and I said, your son probably wants 3 Slurpees too, but you're not giving him 3 Slurpees, are you?
Yeah.
But my son plays all the time, so.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm always more if I'm in favor of it and the kid wants it, I'm more apt to say yes than no. You're right.
I don't think goaltending is like having 3 Slurpees, but sometimes it's that happy.
Well, this is certainly a different discussion compared to talking about whether Henrik Lundqvist is going to start for the New York Rangers out of the pause.
Aren't we lucky? That was a fantastic article that Paul Campbell had up for us, and they looked at some of the advanced statistics coming from ClearSight Analytics to really look at the question, one that we've heard Woody, speaking of pulpits, he gets in his pulpit here and he talks about the fact that Henrik Lundqvist is not done and stands on the statistics to say that he's not done. Now, he's not saying that he's the number 1 goaltender for the New York Rangers anymore, but he is saying that he is a number 1 goaltender still. And I'd encourage you to take a look at the article and see what the arguments are. Because it's interesting, every time we publish something on social about something like this, and it happened with this one, immediately people who don't read the article and only read the headline jump in with all their arguments. And I think you really need to read it and evaluate it critically before you jump in and argue here.
I will say this, that the way the second half of the season went and was trending at the pause, it sure looked like the odds were against Henrik Lundqvist to, one, be the starting goaltender for the New York Rangers in the postseason, if they made the postseason, and two, there was so much discussion whether or not he would even return for next year. This pandemic and this pause has left that open for a reversal. If he does get the start, if he does succeed and play well, that makes it a lot more possible that the relationship and the career ends the way we all think it should end, with a final swan song and tour through Madison Square Garden.
And yeah, you've just pointed out something that I hadn't even considered, that this could be, if it is the final year, that he doesn't get that proper send-off that he so deserves.
I think that I think he will start for the New York Rangers. I truly believe that it's just his success against Carolina individually, and that experience and coming off a pause. I think there's a lot of reasons to go with him in game number 1 against the Carolina Hurricanes. Now, if he plays the exhibition game and gets lit up, that's a different story. But I do think that he gets that opening assignment, and you go to Shesterkin as your second choice. Just, that's my gut feeling.
Over a goaltender who merely had the best numbers in the NHL,
right,
in his time. That's a tough one. But we've already talked about how the leash is also likely to be quite short, or perhaps much more like we see in an Olympic tournament or something like that. So it's going to be fascinating. But you did bring up something interesting there, that a number of players in the National Hockey League may be playing their final season either with a team or even in a career, and they're not going to be able to say goodbye to the fans.
Different, right?
Very.
It's going to be a new experience. We have the experience of inducting a goaltender into the Hockey Hall of Fame for the class of 2020. And it was done by a phone call, and Kim St Pierre received that call from Lanny McDonald. In this conversation with Kevin Woodley, she never states whether or not she finished the round of golf. Oh, she received the call while she was playing with her family. But I thought this is a really honest, unique, open discussion that Kim has with Kevin. And one of the things that I was impressed with that she mentioned was she was on a television show in Quebec, and they surprised her with Manon Rhéaume being a guest and coming on, and she mentioned that experience and interacting with Manon before she followed it up with, and I also got a call from Bobby Orr to congratulate me, and I thought, well, isn't that amazing? Because in the past, I think you would have heard somebody in that situation say, I got a call from Bobby Orr. Wasn't that amazing? One of the greatest defensemen, if not the greatest defenseman or players in the National Hockey League history. And then follow back on the call from a female hockey player. This was the reverse. It was, she got her call. She talked about Manon. And I thought that's a great example of the development of women's game in itself.
And I think it really underlines the importance of young women in the game having people they can look up to, other women who've played the position,
Right.
played the game. I have no doubt that if you sit down with a pile of young female goaltenders, many of them will name people like Carey Price as being their favorite goaltender. But this really still underlines that importance of having a role model, somebody you can look up to. And we say it almost every time we have one of these interviews, but it really was one of my favorite that I've heard in the now 75 plus episodes that we've had. The level of maturity, how well spoken she was. You can see that experience of somebody who's played in the game for so many years, graduated from university, lived a life beyond hockey. And so she's able to bring that. I could see her being a very successful goaltending coach. The way she talks about the mental side of the game, her approach to the game.
How about body language with one of the biggest offenders of bad body language, Kevin Woodley? Do you think Woody learned something about this?
We really need to get some video when Woody finally gets back to the rink, don't we?
Yeah. Even just recording this podcast, Woody.
Yeah. Well, you call me on that too. It was really fantastic. And I think those are the details that we talk about when we ask that question of people, what does it mean to be a pro? And I think we really hear in that interview that Kim St Pierre knows what it means to be a pro. And I think she can communicate that to other athletes as well. So I think if you've got an opportunity to sit down and listen to this interview, parents with your son or daughter, I really encourage you to do that. 3
keys: patience, confidence, and a picture of a happy face. They all come together. It's Kim St Pierre, our feature interview on InGoal Radio, the podcast with Kevin Woodley.
So what's that like when you get that call from Lanny McDonald? Was there any expectation? Were you waiting by the phone, or what's that? I can't imagine what that. So share what that experience was like.
Yeah, I don't think I'm still over it. It's been amazing. I don't think you can never be ready for this call. For sure, I heard my name a few times for this year's induction, but there's so many great hockey players. You never know when you're going to get the call. And I thought they would call the people maybe a day before, but my call happened 15 minutes before the actual release on TSN. So for sure, I was not expecting it. I was on the golf course with my kids and my husband. So I went to hide in the car just to make sure it was really Lanny McDonald talking to me. But wow, right away you start thinking about everybody that made a difference in your career. And I'm still very excited because I had so many interviews and so many friends reaching out and teammates. So yeah, I'm still on the cloud.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. Like what are, I mean, they're probably old teammates that you haven't talked to in a while, probably some you still keep in touch with from all those Olympics and World Championships. Like we could spend half an hour listing all the accomplishments of your career. We wouldn't have time for questions. What were there any calls that surprised you? People that reached out that stood out to you?
Yes, well, so many of my teammates and even some American women's hockey player reached out. And last night I was on a big TV show here in Quebec, and I didn't know, but they had invited Manon Réaume as well to be on the show. So what a surprise to be able to talk to her as she was an inspiration for me. She was the first female hockey role model that I was looking up to. So it was so great to hear from her, and even some NHL players, and Bobby Orr even called me. So it's been so crazy to hear about all these people reaching out and congratulating me. But yeah, for sure, my teammates, it's because of them. We're a team sport, especially a goalie. You need good defense, good offense. So I'm so glad a lot of them reached out, and I want to share this award with them for sure.
Can you compare this at all? Because you have had so many great moments. I mean, you've got 3 Olympic gold medals, 5 World Championship gold medals. I mean, CWHL awards, CIS, but when you were with McGill, so many. Can you compare something like this to a moment like a first gold medal, or is it just a completely different world?
It's totally a different world. You know how it is to be a goalie. And hockey is such a team sport, and And when you win the Olympics, you can share with all your teammates, then your coaches and the support staff. And same thing at McGill, like winning a game, you share it live with all your teammates. But this being an individual award, like I'm not used to dealing with all of this by myself. And it's overwhelming a bit because, yeah, I did it because of everyone around me. So that's why I just want to share with my teammates. But you can never expect or get ready for this phone call, like being inducted in the Hockey Hall of Fame. Like when I started playing hockey, I was 8 years old. I never thought that would be possible, especially for a girl playing hockey. So yeah, it's kind of been crazy. And I don't think I still realize what's going on and how big this is, but I'm trying to share it with my kids and they keep asking me, what is this all about? And I was like, it's hard to explain how proud I am to be a part of this. I'm the 8th woman to join the group, so they're all legends. So it's so fun to join them.
I was going to ask you, like, what does it mean to have your kids be able to get a sense of your career through this? Because of course your boys are 6 and 8, and so they would have been, even if you were still playing after they were born, especially your oldest, they would have been too young to really. We hear that from players all the time, where I wish I played a little longer so my kids were old enough to sort of understand. What's it like have you had that? Is this an opportunity to sort of share it with them at a level you weren't able to when they were younger?
Yeah, that's why I'm kind of glad that the induction happened this year as my kids are older and they play hockey and they know a lot of the NHL players and they enjoy watching women's hockey. So I think the timing was great. And now they get to maybe know a little more about their mom, because back in my days, not a lot of YouTube videos or Google stuff for the kids when they put my name in. But now they really get to maybe experience a little bit what I've been through with all these years with Team Canada, and all their friends are asking questions, and so I'm so glad they'll be able to join the ceremony and they see their mom as a mom and as a goalie. Like sometimes I dress up and I go on the ice with them and I coach them as well. And on Liam's team, my oldest son, this year there was only one girl and she was the goalie. So I was her coach, and I think the little boys, they enjoy seeing a mom on the ice and being close to them and helping them get better. So for me, I'm enjoying teaching at this level.
You started playing hockey at age 8. At what point did you become a goalie, and how did you know that was the position for you?
Well, I was a good athlete already. I was doing some figure skating, tennis, swimming. I was a soccer player, and at some point, hockey just happened. My dad played a lot of hockey, and I have 2 brothers. So if I wanted to be with my brothers, I needed to be the goalie, because they didn't want to stuff the frozen tennis balls, and they just wanted to score goals. So I was like, okay, I'll be the goalie. And we lived in a really great neighborhood with so many kids, and my dad would build always like an ice surface in the winter, so everybody would come and play hockey. So at some point I was like, okay, enough of those figure skating skates. I took a hockey stick, and it was just like a passion right away for me. So I played 1 year as a forward because I was a good skater coming from figure skating. But the beginning of my second year, the coach came in the room, and I called him Santa Claus, because he just like dropped a bag of equipment. And back then it was all brown, nothing interesting about goalie, no goalie helmet, just brown plain goalie equipment. I put it on, and I don't know, it was magical. So I got to practice, and my mom was like, okay, we're done with this goalie thing. I was like, Mom, can I just please play one real game? She's like, okay, 1, and then we're done. First game, I lost 8-0. I was crying. I told my parents it was all their fault. I didn't want to go back to hockey anymore. But I think for them, they're like, we can't let her be this way. Like, she loves hockey so much. I would always watch the Montreal Canadiens on TV. So they made me go to the next game and the next practice. And I just kept getting better and better, and never took off the goalie equipment after that. So I played all these years playing boys hockey. So thank God my parents did not give up, knowing that's probably what they wanted me to just do, like just be a hockey player or defenseman or forward. not a goalie. But I think now they're happy that he kept pushing me, and enjoyed every moment of it.
Now, because this is a different era. I mean, you start playing, so we're talking mid 80s when you start playing goal, into the early 90s as you're getting your start. Nowadays, we've got goalie coaches at that age and all kinds of structure and teaching, and because you're involved on the coaching side. But back then, I mean, you're talking about first goalie coaches in the NHL are just starting to get started. In Montreal, of course, with Patrick and with Francois Lair. What was your experience like? Did you have any coaching? At what age did you first get coaching? Or were you just going out there and playing and trying to imitate, whether it's the guys you saw on TV or other female goaltenders? Who were your idols? Who were your inspirations? And how did you learn to play the position?
Yeah, that's a good point. Nowadays, the kids are 6 or 7. They have goalie schools and private goalie coach. But for me, I was a good softball player. So I think I was able to catch many pucks because of that. So that's why I was maybe skilled at a younger age. But for me, it was all about watching Patrick Roy on TV, like watching the Montreal Canadiens, watching Marty Brodeur. I learned a lot by watching hockey on TV. So I think that's how I grew up. And then what's funny is that my dad was probably my best goalie coach when I was growing up, because he was a good defenseman. He was drafted by the New York Rangers. He never played in the pro, but he was a defenseman, but he got to learn the position with me. He would always come and shoot so many pucks at me. Even in my McGill days, he would come before work. So at 6:30 a.m., we would be on the ice. We would prepare drills the day before. We would practice for 30, 45 minutes. Then he would go to work and I would go to school. So he was always there to support me. And he had a hockey school for 19 years. So there was a goalie group and then a forward group. So for many years, that's what I was doing in the summer, just 1 week of goalie school. Everything else was about multi-sport, doing something else in the summer to get better on the ice. And then growing up with the boys, I played at the elite level. So then I had a goalie coach in Chateauguay, where I grew up. So many goalie coaches were involved in the Chateauguay Minor Hockey Association. And then for sure moving up at McGill and then Team Canada, I had so many great goalie coaches like Marco Marciano. Now he's involved with the Laval Rocket. What a great goalie coach. I like the coaches that pushes us and so many pucks in the drills. And he was very motivating for us. And for sure I got a lot better because of him. But that's kind of what I went through. But definitely, I think the kids nowadays, they don't watch enough hockey on TV. But as a goalie, I think we get so much from watching other goalies.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's one of the things we've tried to adopt with InGoal Premium and the Pro Reads, the idea of watching it through the eyes of an NHL goaltender to learn how to read the game. So it's fascinating that you talk about that. McGill, I'm curious about the time at the McGill. I mean, like I said, I could probably spend 10 minutes listing the awards at McGill during your time there. 27 shutouts in 103 games. So basically every fourth game, there's a goose egg in there. That's not too shabby. I'm more curious about the kinesiology degree that you got there, and in what ways, if any, did that education side of thing and the physical education side of thing impact your goaltending? Did it have an effect? Did you think about things differently at all because of what you were learning in school? And did you apply it in any way to how you played the position?
Yes, for sure. I think I was involved on the ice, but off ice has been has had a major impact on my career. At some point, all the goalies are almost at the same level. So how you get chosen, if you're fitter, if you're more flexible, and then for sure all the mental aspect is important as well. But for sure being into sport mode all these years at McGill and learning from the best professors at McGill and helping the nutrition as well. I remember taking the nutrition class. For sure it was helping me as a goalie. But growing up, sports has been there all my life. So that's why I wanted to go in kinesiology at McGill. And happy I was able to get my degree. And now I work with the kids in the school. But it was a great degree to have. And for sure it helped me become a better goalie off the ice, because it matters so much as well.
You've touched on the mental side of things. I wanted to ask you about that. Obviously, in so many big moments, and just coming up to that first Olympic gold medal, that rivalry against the Americans, and a 3-2 win in a tight game in Salt Lake City in their barn. Mental approach. What do you remember? Like, what allowed you, Kim, to play your best in moments like that? Were there any things that you learned over the years that allowed you to, whether it was stay calm or just channel the right emotions? Any tips that you could share with young goalies who are listening right now that, whether even for them, it might just be a tryout. That's their big moment coming up. How do you perform at your best when the stakes are so high? And in your case, when the spotlight is shining so bright on the international stage?
Well, I think it's all about preparation. If the day of a big game, you start changing everything that you're doing day to day, then your body right away is stressing because it's not used to going through the same routine. So for me, it's been, if you prepare well, just like for an exam, if you don't study, forget about it. You're not going to be able to pass your exam. So for me, it was all about every day mattered. Every practice, every puck mattered. So then when you get into a big game, you're so used to being focused and mentally ready. And I think that was a big part of my success. But for sure, a big game like at the Olympics, you need strategies. You need strategies for to overcome a bad goal, and these come, I think, with experience. The more you get through these games, the more you're able to control the pressure, the stress that you're feeling. But for me, I was getting a lot of help from my teammate. I said, if I start talking to them, it helped me feel better and knowing that they were there for me. And I would always write stuff on my stick. So then when you get lost or you're stressed, I would just come back to 3 key words, and then it gets you back right in the game. So I had many strategies like that just to stay connected, because as a goalie, you need to be in the present. If you think about whatever happened in the past or what might happen in the third, or if you let in the next goal, you're done. So that's why we had the great sports psychologist working with the national team, and it was Peter Jensen. So having great strategies because of him really helped, because like I said, when you get to this level, the mental aspect, that's why if you work so hard on all your preparation physically, then if your mental is sharp and ready to go, the puck will look like a beach ball versus playing behind a soccer net. So that's why you always want to have the beach ball coming at you. And it definitely comes with experience. But for sure, the kids, they need to understand that the stress is good. That's what I'm teaching my oldest son. It's hard for them to know what stress is, but there's good stress and there's the bad stress. So once they understand that stress is good and makes them perform, then they see it as a challenge and not as I only have the word in French, but they don't see it as a negative thing. They want to go for it. They want to win this game. So once you're not scared to go, then you'll be able to perform freely. So I think that's the biggest thing.
Any chance you can share those 3 words that were written on the stick?
Well, they kind of changed over the years depending on what we were working on, but it was usually patience, because I knew if I would just be patient, every puck was coming, not to go in the butterfly too quickly. So patience, and then confidence. I think as a goalie, if you're confident, your team feeds off of that. They feel that they can make mistakes. They feel that you'll be there for them. So patience, confidence, and then at the end of my career, it was a happy face, because sometimes you forget how fun hockey is because you put too much pressure. So it was just a reminder that it's a game. It's supposed to be fun, and to keep it fun. For sure, games are stressful and you need to win. But if you, approach it and keep smiling, it just helps play freely and then perform at your best. So at the end of my career, it was mostly those 3 words.
Confidence. So having the word confidence on the stick, but what does confidence mean to, like, when you talk about portraying that to your teammates, what are some of the things you can do as a goaltender to instill that confidence in them? Is it body language? What were your keys to that? Because confidence is I think a word that a lot of goaltenders that listening to this will be like, yeah, I want to be confident, but achieving that, like how did you, when you saw that word, what came into your head? Was it about how you portrayed yourself to others, or was it a reminder, or to your teammates, or a reminder of, hey, I've been there, I've done that, this is no big deal, I've got this? Like how did that word work for you in that situation?
It goes both ways. Like, you need confidence in yourself, but you need to show confidence in to your teammates so that they feel that they know the goalie has so much pressure, and usually you win or you lose because of your goalie. So definitely for my teammates, body language. Like, you let in a goal, it's not a good thing if it's in the first 2 minutes, but if your teammates don't feel that you did something you shouldn't have done, then they'll say, okay, let's forget about it. We'll go get the next one. Versus if they see a bad body language, then they'll be, we don't want to we'll get scored again, and then we're done. So definitely body language. But for me, it would start in the practices. If they know that you're there every day, even if when it doesn't matter, the little games that we would play at the end, or stay on the ice to work on different things with a player that would work on back end or whatever they need to work on, right away the confidence is building, knowing that you're always there for them. You're always playing at your top level. Every puck matters. Like, I would never let a puck in my net in practice. Yeah, I got scored and I would take it out of my net. Like, for me, it was having this clear mind that nothing belongs behind me, behind the goal line. And in a game, for sure, it's making the big saves and having the saves, making the saves look easy. That's when they're like, wow, the Kim is on top of her game. Or that's something I heard so much, how they enjoyed seeing me calm. Like, I would not be like a stressed goalie and going all over the place and don't touch my equipment. And I think that made them confident, knowing that nothing looked like it was bothering me, even if inside, how we have to deal with so much. But I never really showed them this side. So then they were ready to play the big games because they knew I would stop the pucks.
That's funny you tell the story about taking the pucks out of the net in practice, because I think there's a Montreal Canadiens goaltender right now that doesn't like to have anything behind him in practice, and we've heard that story as well. So it is a mindset, isn't it, in portraying that?
Oh, definitely. And you kind of create something, let's say with Jana Heffer, like every time she would come on for a shot in a practice, she wanted to score so bad, and I never wanted to let her score. So she was getting better, and I was getting so much better too. And same thing with Danielle Goyette. And when Wickenheiser was coming in a practice, like, there's no way she's scoring. So I think that's how you get better. And the players, they get better. Like, even in goalie practice, when they say shoot on the goalie, I was like, no, shoot to score. Like, there's always an opportunity to get better, and it's okay if it goes in. You'll move on from this. But I think everything starts in practices for goalies, as we don't get too many shots in a game. So that's how I think I improved a lot.
Well, that's interesting to hear. You're embracing practice against like the best, especially at the Olympic level. You're going against the best in the world on your team day to day. And we hear a lot of goalies, and honestly, at InGoal, we were guilty of this at a time, writing stories about how a lot of team practices aren't very goalie friendly. And instead of complaining about it, the key is to find ways to embrace it. And it sounds like you found a way to embrace it, despite the fact, I'm sure a lot of those practices are wide open drills and open shots that players aren't getting. Like you said, you're not seeing those in a game very often, and the best in the world shooting them. But you found a way to embrace that rather than bristle at it. And it sounds like that was an important part of your career.
Definitely. And sometimes we get into this routine, and especially playing, we were not pro hockey players, but playing every day, you kind of get bored. So for me, it was about every week having an objective. Okay, this week I want to get better at, it could be doing the split. It could be moving across the crease, getting better at breakaways. So then every day when you step on the ice, you have something in mind versus just, it's just another practice. Like that way I would make sure I would get better. And when like you said, I was bored because no shots, then I got better at playing the puck because I would just shoot pucks in my net. Or I would, like, the assistant coaches would just be skating around. I would be passing the puck to them if they were at the opposite blue line. They would shoot it back, and that's how we got better. I got better at playing the puck. And all the crease movements, I know they seem boring for the kids, but even Carey Price is still doing them. It's the basic. It's such a small area, but then if you master this area, then you can move and get in front of every single puck. So for sure, every practice I would start with drills, or if they would do a power play in the other zone, well, never I would just be there and looking at Zabby or Charlie. Like, there's always an opportunity to get this hour and a half to get better. Every time you step off the ice, you know you've done everything you could. So that's why once you get into the big games, you work so hard that you know you can get through these big games and be successful.
Style. I'm curious because we talked about it, like in the 80s, you talked about watching Patrick, and obviously the butterfly that was just starting. You'd grown up in an era where I'm sure it was more about stand-up and kick save and positioning. If you looked back now, now doing some coaching, at how you played through the evolution of Kim St Pierre, because I'm guessing, with this passion to learn and practice, that your game evolved. What would you see if you look back at yourself, say that first Olympics in 2002 compared to say towards the end of your career? How would you describe the styles and that evolution of your game?
Oh, wow. The position has evolved so much. And I was so lucky, to be able to see Patrick Roy coming with the butterfly style. And I was like right away, I don't know why, I was really good at the butterfly, but I learned the 2-pad stack, and the skate saves were in too in my days in hockey school. So you would do these skate saves. And at some point I went to hockey school and I was not allowed to do 2-pad stack. And I was like, that's impossible. But I think that was the position getting better and evolving has, if you make that save, you can't get to the rebound. So I was really a part of seeing the great goalies coming from Europe and all the good ones from Quebec and Canada. So like I said, just watching them on TV, I got better. And it's crazy nowadays how little kids are able to butterfly power slides, and they can do everything. But for me, it came at a later time. But I think the equipment too, the evolution of the equipment, it's amazing to see the little kids dressed up and how light the equipment is as well. So that makes a difference in how fast and agile the goalies are nowadays.
Now, 2002 Olympics, the first Olympics, is that like when you rank things, and I don't know if you've ever done this or if you would even think about it, like where does that moment rank amongst all these great moments that have led to the phone call moment? What are your memories of Salt Lake City?
Yeah, for sure. All my youth, I was dreaming of going to the Olympics. I didn't know which sport because I enjoyed every single one of them. So when I was able to make the team and show up at the Olympics, just the opening ceremonies, I was like, wow, like it's just as I was seeing it on TV, but so much better because I was actually walking in the stadium. And then to get to play in the final game, we had lost like 8 games in a row in preparation to these Olympic Games against the US team. They had been centralized like 6 months before our team. So for sure they were always ahead of us. But we knew that day it was just one game, 60 minutes of hockey. And I don't know why, but for sure we were well prepared. But this team was ready to go through anything that day. And we had, I think, 14 penalties against us. And just every time we were getting out of this PK, we were just building energy, building confidence. And we scored the first goal. And then there's Jana Hefford's goal that was amazing. Then ended up winning 3-2. So it was the best day of my life. Like just to be at the Olympics and winning a gold medal was just magical. And all these teammates on 2002 teams, they know that year was a big challenge, but to be able to come out on top was magical.
2 more Olympic gold medals in 06 and 2010. Canadian Olympic Hall. You're already in a Hall of Fame. You're already in the Canadian Olympic Hall of Fame with your teammates. 9 world championships, 5 gold, 4 silver, top goalie award a couple times. There were, like I said, so many to list. We could probably spend an hour going through all the situations and some of the unique circumstances. Were there any amongst all that outside of 2002 that stood out for you for any reasons? And also the opportunity to travel the world like that. You must have gotten to experience a lot of different things that a lot of people probably never do in their entire life.
Oh yeah, for sure. The traveling, the hockey countries was really good. It was fun to even play in China. But my great memories for sure are all the world championships that we were able to play in Canada. Like everyone was coming to watch her games. The rinks would be full, and the crowd was bringing us so much energy and so supportive of women's hockey. So playing in Winnipeg and Halifax, and played a few exhibition games in Montreal and Vancouver. So those are very special memories. And for sure, going to McGill University, I thought hockey was over for me, and I had the chance to be recruited when the season was almost over with the boys, and I was ready to move on. And Dan Madden from McGill University said, "Hey, you want to come play?" And I was like, "Whoa, I don't know. I don't know anybody going to McGill." And I was not really successful in women's hockey, so I was scared a bit of women's hockey. And I didn't speak English either, so I was like, oh. But then I was like, okay, I can still play hockey for 5 years. So I decided to go, and that's when I got my first call for Team Canada as well. So it's weird sometimes thinking that I was done with hockey. And then because I said yes to this challenge of going to McGill, it changed my life. That's where I met my husband, and I have my 2 kids with him. That's where I met a few of my best friends as well. And having a degree plus a chance for Team Canada. So everything opened up in front of me. So glad I decided to go to McGill.
You said earlier in the interview that Manon, when she called you one of your inspirations, obviously things have changed. There are more opportunities in terms of university for women's hockey players. We've got leagues. I know you played in the original NWHL and the CWHL, have championships there as well. Where are we at, and what does it feel like to be one of the role models and one of the pioneers for this evolution? What are the next steps? Where are we at? How do we make things even better for women's hockey players, more opportunities to do what you were able to do? Because to hear, here we are celebrating this moment, but to hear you were that close to walking away and thought you were done with the game before you even started really this career is, that it's a little bit scary to think we wouldn't have had the opportunity to celebrate all these moments.
Yes, but I think it's opportunities. And when I grew up, it was just the NHL, nothing else. I thought that was the only option. But now little girls can play college hockey. They can play university in Canada or US. There's hockey schools only for girls. There's minor hockey associations for girls. So I think now the little girls asking their parents to play hockey is normal. For me, it was what are you thinking? So just this evolution on being a girl and playing hockey is cool. That's something you can do. But there's so much we can still work towards, especially our women's professional league. We've created the Player Association, and working with the NHL, that would be the ultimate goal. The Hall of Fame was great, but if we can get professional league for little girls playing hockey and wanting to become pro hockey players, I think that would be the top, the next thing to accomplish. There's a great leadership group working towards a few girls from Canada and the US. So hopefully it's going to work out. That would be really cool. If I would get involved also with a team, but I think that's something we should work towards. And just in general, to keep working to bring women's hockey to the next level, have the European players come in and join. But I think we all need to work together, and having people, sponsors, and business people wanting to bring our game to the next level. So fingers crossed to bring more opportunities for girls and women's playing hockey.
Last one, and I know we got to let you go here, but I just wanted to. What you're up to now? You talked about coaching your sons and being on the ice. What other? I know you work with Carolyn Ouellette's camp, and what are some of the other things you're doing in terms of coaching? And also just give us a little background on your work with Box as well, and the good work you do there.
Yes, so with hockey, for sure, I enjoy coaching goalies. Elite level is so amazing to work with goalies at the elite level, but I'm discovering the grassroots level too. My son being my 2 sons, 6 and 8, so I get to go on the ice and work with the little goalies, showing them how to skate. I've done some work with Hockey Quebec as well, and like you said, Carolyn Ouellette has a few hockey camps. So whenever I can spend a day or two in hockey camps, it's such a pleasure for me to get to know the kids and just inspire them that everything is possible. So whenever I can get on the ice, I go. And my real job, I work for Box Canada. It's BOKS. It's a free physical activity program for kids in school. So we provide schools across Canada, French and English, resources to make sports and physical activity fun. So either in the classroom, the teacher can get the kids to stand up and then do an active break with them, or for the phys ed teacher, or daycare service as well before or after school. So it's so fun, because for me, that's where physical activity and sports started, in school. Like if you're able to move at school, do your 60 minutes a day, then you'll feel better and then do better in school. So it's so great to motivate and inspire the kids to move and show them how they can accomplish whatever they want. I was the only girl playing hockey. It did not matter to me. So I want to motivate them to say, if you're the only one doing something and you enjoy it, well, keep doing it. Like, who knows what it will bring you. So it's a fun job. I've been with them for 3 years. So it's so great I can still be on the ice and then do this in the schools.
And what a great mindset. Like you said, who knows where it can lead if you enjoy it. Kim, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today. And beyond celebrating your career, which we obviously wanted to do, and the Hall of Fame induction, there are so many great takeaways, whether it's practice or your approach to the game mentally, that I know our audience, which is all goaltenders, they're going to be better for having listened to your voice on those different things. So thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today. It was sincerely appreciated on our end.
Well, thank you. And maybe last words, we didn't talk about goalie partners. Maybe
there we go.
Something sometimes, yes, you're competing against one another, but what a chance to become better because of one another. For sure, everyone wants to be goalie number one, but I think for me with Team Canada, that's how also I got better. Seeing Shannon Zabados or Charlene Labonté and Sammy Joe Small when I started, that's why in Canada we're so strong, because we're helping each other and we're making each other better. So yes, the goalie partner might not be your best friend, but you should become your best friend, because sharing this position is so different than the other on the team. And I think I need to thank them for making me a better person and a better goalie for sure.
As much as that competition was there between you and you were all fighting for one spot in the crease when the game mattered the most, did you guys talk technique? I'm curious now. Last one. Did you were you talking, were you guys sharing notes, comparing styles? I mean, I started sort of covering and learning the position as Shannon was coming in. I covered the 2010 Olympics and I watched her and I'm like, technically, I was like, wow, brilliant. Just so good technically. So were you guys feeding off each other throughout all those years, different partners, different relationships, how I play this, how you play that, sort of mirroring each other?
Definitely. And this would happen in goalie practice. Sometimes we would jump, all the goalies and the goalie coach, 45 minutes before actual practice time. So then that was always a great discussion to say, okay, how should you do this? And why are you doing this? But I'm doing this different. So we all had different styles, but to get the tips and tricks from all the goalies I've worked with, I think it makes you better and try out new things. And we were all so different, but definitely when it was goalie time, people would leave us alone, and that's where the learning would happen. And also we worked a lot on videos, watching the games that we had played or the other goalie had played. Then we were able to learn so much that way as well.
Perfect. We'll call this the overtime for your appearance on the InGoal Radio Podcast. Kim, thank you so much for that and for adding that to it. We really appreciate it. All the best, and can't wait for hopefully everything settles down so that we can have a live induction and your family can get to enjoy that weekend as well and see what a great career you've had and what an impact you've had on the game, inspiring others. Thanks for sharing the time today.
Thank you so much.
That was amazing. Kim doubles back with one more question and extends the conversation. That's how engaged Kim St Pierre was in that conversation with Woody, to extend it with her own idea and her own discussion point.
It was priceless. I'm almost speechless. It was fantastic for both of us to hear that moment. I'm sure Kevin was laughing along with us.
Oh, he was so excited when he finished the interview and sent us the note.
Yeah,
it wasn't me this time.
And it was a great note too, really, wasn't it? I mean, she talks about how your partner doesn't have to be your best friend, but maybe they should be. And what an opportunity to learn from each other. And she's had an opportunity to mentor some fantastic goaltenders and learn from others as well. So Yeah, love that somebody turned that about on Woody, and hopefully a few future guests are listening now, and they're ready to do it to him too.
And what a story about her first experience playing goal and losing and being so upset and basically didn't want to go back, and her parents didn't want to have that experience be the driving point to not playing hockey anymore, and urged her to go back, and she did. And what do you know? You stick with it. You decide to suck it up and guide your children, just not to become an Olympic athlete, but just to have a better experience in athletics and sport. And what comes out of it is incredible.
No, that's quality parenting there, isn't it? What a great example for all of us. I'm sure that her parents would have been fine if after the second game she decided to hang up the pads, right? Like, so that's good parenting. And those are, we talk about how the game gives us lessons that will last a lifetime. And I think she's learned a lesson there that she'll pass on to her kids as well.
I love the story about second generation athlete as well. I mean, we talk about Kachuk. We talk about all these families that have second generation talents, and her dad drafted
her best goalie coach. Yeah. And I also love the bit that she was about to hang it up before she got her opportunity at McGill University.
Wild.
Yeah, I had a very, very tiny cup of coffee at McGill myself. So fun to hear another Redmond there.
Look forward to the induction ceremony and seeing her children there. Hopefully, it's not as a situation where we're social distancing. It's not a big space to start with. But we are closing in on that. So I look forward to that experience of watching her children get to see mom up there with all these National Hockey Leaguers and these legends. It'll be pretty cool. Up on the website, Jason LaBarbera, give me an idea of what we're looking at right now.
Well, you know as well as anybody because you conducted the interview, didn't you?
But I don't handle the rest of it. I have the easy part. I do the talking.
Oh no,
you do all the guiding and the posting and the content.
No, it was an expert job you did with both Barbs and with Carter Hart, and as a participant, sitting in on the WHL Hockey Canada Goaltending Symposium, which we were very privileged to host for them. With you and Woody behind the mic and doing such a fantastic job. So we are exclusively able to share that content with our premium members. There were only not even 100 people part of the symposium, coaches, high-level coaches from across the country. And now we're able to share that content with our members. And we've rolled out your interview with Carter Hart. And we have our interview with Jason LaBarbera up there now. If anybody wants to catch up with it, I thought it was, there's some hilarious stories in there. It's well worth a listen. And there's also one from Pasco Villana, who is presenting the level 1 and 2 goaltending coaching curriculum for coaches. It's a fairly abbreviated version. You're not going to become a certified coach by watching it. Because he knew he was presenting to some very experienced, very high-level coaches. He was more sharing what the curriculum's all about. But still some fun stuff in there, and even a chance to see Mike Palmatier take a breakaway. So lots of great content and tons more coming. So we really encourage you to become a member and catch up with. I think anybody would have happily spent the cost of an InGoal membership to sit in on that symposium and then some. So.
You're right. It was a symposium for the Western Hockey League goalie coaches, and then some others also got to participate. But it was a very closed audience. But the exposure that you have, the public, I speak to, by way of the relationship that InGoal has with the Western Hockey League and Hockey Canada is really unique. That you can now experience some of these presentations is extraordinary. And
I should say, not just Canada. Woody was on the phone before he had to leave today with USA Hockey and doing an interview with them. And we've got some content relevant to our American listeners and our American readers coming probably this weekend if he gets this work he's on wrapped up in time. If not, very soon.
24 teams are starting their road towards training camp, which will begin July 13th. And when we next speak to you on InGoal Radio, the podcast, we will have some current developments and observations to pass your way. And I'm as excited about that as anything, to be seeing these athletes back on the ice and to be able to break down and have conversations about different scenarios that could play out. There's there's a lot to come. And when we hit the ground, we are going to hit the ground very fast.
And you are closer to it than any of us. So I'm really excited to hear the notes from you. I love getting the text messages telling us what's going on. And I'm looking forward for you and for us to be able to share that with everybody next week.
Hey, what do you think of Leonard's new pads?
I love them.
Pretty cool, eh?
I love them.
He only wore the other ones 3 times.
Yeah.
Including a shutout in the first one. So
maybe you can get them. It's interesting because as I was listening to the Kim St Pierre interview, and she mentioned when she first started, it wasn't very exciting. It was only the old brown gear. And I just, come on. I used to send away for every company's catalog when I was playing back in the 80s. And I loved every bit of it. The color didn't even matter, although I think in the 70s I had a blue blocker or something. But
oh, you elitist!
Yeah, well, no, it was the house league. It was the house league gear, my friend. It had nothing to do with the elitist.
Yeah, there's something kids will never experience now is the 9-year-old set is really good compared to the set that the 8-year-olds get. So I can't wait till I turn 9 and be able to wear that. Musty, leathery, oily smell that came off the gear was something that we of a certain era and age certainly experienced. This has been great, nice catching up with you, and obviously incredible job by Woody with Kim St Pierre. On behalf of David Hutchison, Kevin Woodley, I'm Darren Millard. Thanks for listening to InGoal Radio, the podcast. We'll chat with you next week and the start of training camp.